In 1974, I don't know why, but I came to believe that the world was going to end in 1976. I was sure of it. 1976 came and went, and 2 years later, I discovered that Jesus was real, was a person, was in the Eucharist, in the Catholic Church, and in early 1978, I joined the church. Fast forward many years, I'm in deacon formation. I'm working on a practice homily, and the verses that I'm reading and going to be doing a homily on are very, very similar to this. It's you don't know the date and the time that Jesus is coming back. And all of a sudden, I had this huge fear almost. I thought to myself, I predicted that 2 years before I got to know Jesus, before I began my journey with Jesus, was going to be the end of the world. I was going to be damned to everlasting nothingness. And then I changed my mind and I stopped being physically affected. I thought, thank God Jesus didn't come back in 1976. Thank God. And that's when I realized the real question isn't when is Jesus coming back or when are we passing? The real question is, are we ready? Are we ready for when he comes? This is the first Sunday of Advent. This is the first day of Advent. I called it Lent several times in my practicing. First Sunday, first day of Advent. And Advent is uniquely focused on watching, being prepared, not being asleep, being ready to meet Jesus as a child in the manger, or should he come before then, or whenever we're going to meet him. Jesus is love, and he gave us two great commandments: to love God and the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit above all, and love our neighbor as ourselves. In the church's Advent season, it's easy to work on both. If we're talking about helping the poor, 150 people are going to be getting gifts through our Christmas giving program, over 150, that weren't going to be getting gifts before. Talking about feeding the hungry. Last Monday, our pantry and the volunteers at our pantry provided food for 110 families, over 700 people. Talk about clothing the naked. You heard in the announcements this morning that next Sunday in the West parking lot there's going to be a drop-off from 12:30 to 2:30 of new and used clothes to go down to the Holy Name downtown, where people need coats, they need clean pants, they need underwear. We're called on in Advent to share ourselves and share love. I suggest some of us, if we know people that aren't getting out with COVID now, call and talk with them. Remind them how much they're loved. We're sending greeting cards, send Christmas cards. Maybe consider sending them to people you know that are in assisted living facilities. They're really been locked down this year. We're called to pray for people. We're called to love them. And every time we do one of those works of mercy or we share love, we're actually doing it to Jesus. Remember, he said, whatever we do to the least of our brothers and sisters, we do to him. So we're growing closer to him by loving others. But Advent also encourages us to grow closer to God and Jesus in other ways. We're called to attend the reconciliation, go to confession at least once during Advent. And that's to clear from us what keeps us from loving or being loved by God. Normally it's guilt and fear, things like that. we're also called to prayer and reflection. There are more tools available today than at any other time in history. We can get reflections sent to us via email, CD, online, the little blue book, and others out front here. We're called to pray, commune with Jesus via prayer. Leave some time in your prayer to be silent so that Jesus and the Spirit can talk to you and respond to you, and they're in your heart. Also, when we go to communion and when we receive, let's commune with Jesus. We're receiving the King of the universe in our hand and doing what he told us to do, eat his body. When we do that, we can invite him into us, or we can ignore him, I guess. We can rejoice with him and invite him into our hearts. Let's do that. Advent is a time when we can and are expected to watch so that they don't find us sleeping, and prepare ourselves to meet Jesus, both in the altar and the manger on Christmas morning, and whenever it's our time to meet him, when he comes or we pass. Let's take advantage of this Advent and do just that. Work on our preparation.